Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel, which is Mediterranean Diet Inspo. I thought I would shift away from like my normal content that I do, which is cooking recipes and showing you how to accomplish them through the Mediterranean diet, and answer questions that you might have about the actual Mediterranean diet. So I started the Mediterranean diet actually this time last year. I was a size 16. I don't know my weight because I felt like that was very, I knew myself, and I knew that if I knew my weight, I would be obsessive about it and like try to weigh myself every day. So I figured, let's just go by size. And so now I have done it for a year and I'm a size 6. So I have dropped a lot of weight with the Mediterranean diet. I feel amazing. And so with that, I wanted to just talk about questions that I commonly get regarding like the Mediterranean diet and can you have this? Can you not have this? Like, what are your thoughts on this? So the first question that I thought would be helpful is people have asked me, are you allowed to have rice on the Mediterranean diet? And so my answer to that is yes. But I would only have white rice. And the reason for that is the research that I've done has actually showed that I can't like figure out what to do with this pillow. Sorry guys. That brown rice contains arsenic and it's not that great for you. And so also I looked at the fact that I mimic a lot of the Blue Zone guidelines. And if you don't know or are familiar with what Blue Zone is, it's basically these scientists looked at certain regions of the world and saw that people were extremely healthy. They were living for a very long time. And they were like, what are they doing that was different than other parts of the world? And it really came down to diet and just their lifestyle. And so areas like the Mediterranean region, Japan is another one where there was just like the statistics for them were just amazing. And so with the Blue Zone, I noticed that in Japan, they like use white rice for their sushi. They're not using brown rice, and most of the rice dishes that they cook, it's made with white rice. So based on that information, I just use white rice. I stay away from brown. So that's just what I do. The second question that I get a lot of is, can you have pasta on the Mediterranean diet? And my answer to that is yes. But let me think. If you're going to have pasta, I would recommend chickpea pasta. And the reason why is because with the Mediterranean diet, just a general rule of thumb when you're first starting out is that you want to avoid anything that's processed. And so if you look at boxed pasta, for me, if there's more than 3 to 4 ingredients and I don't recognize any of the ingredients, then I'm not going to eat it. So with boxed pasta, usually there's usually 10 ingredients. I have no idea what they are, so I just stay away from it. So I just do chickpea pasta because chickpeas are great for you on the Mediterranean diet. It basically should be like its own like category of the food pyramid because you just eat so many chickpeas on the Mediterranean diet. But that, and then there's not a lot of ingredients in it. And then the ones that you do see, it's like salt chickpeas, so it's less than 4. So I would recommend that. You also can have like couscous and stuff on the Mediterranean diet. So there is that. Just make sure that, you're kind of sticking to those guidelines of do you recognize the ingredients and how many ingredients are there. The last question that I wanted to answer that I get a lot of questions about is cheese. Can you have cheese on the Mediterranean diet? And so my answer to that is yes, you can. If you go and look at the guidelines of the Mediterranean diet, you can have at least 3 to 4 ounces of cheese each week. However, it's important to understand what type of cheese you can have. So again, it goes back to that whole processed food, is it or is it not? When you go and look at like Kraft shredded cheese, when you look at the ingredients, I promise you there's going to be more than 3, and there are going to be things that you don't even recognize as far as the ingredients go. So with that, I try to stay to just feta, blue cheese, Parmesan, and occasionally mozzarella. And so I will use that, usually I don't use like a ton of cheese. Usually it's Parmesan just as like a topping on one of my recipes. But I have posted a video where, for instance, there was like this eggplant Parmesan casserole where you covered it with mozzarella cheese on top. And it was 12 ounces. And so in my mind, the way I justified it was I didn't have any cheese for the month. And that was my cheese then for that month. And that was it. So you can just kind of be mindful about that and kind of work it to your advantage. And, if it's like a casserole that you really want to try or have, if you just got to get that like cheesy fix. So that would be my answer to that. Another thing that I kind of want to like bring to your attention, a lot of times when you're starting out on the Mediterranean diet, it's really not, you kind of have to like be in it a while to understand the terminology, because there is the Mediterranean diet, right? And the Mediterranean diet is a diet. Let's say it's just like keto, it's just like Atkins, it's a diet. And you're doing this to either lose weight, maintain weight, be healthy, blah, blah, blah. So there's that. Then there's the Mediterranean diet, where it's like the foods that people are eating within that particular region, which would be the Mediterranean. So it's the Mediterranean diet. That's what they eat. All that to say is that when you're first starting out, those two don't necessarily go together, because there might be a recipe that you look up that says, Mediterranean diet recipe, and you look at it and it calls for ground beef or ground lamb, sugar, butter, pasta. And that's what the recipe is for that region, but it's not the Mediterranean diet where you're wanting to lose weight. So I think really understanding the principles, so that way when you are in this, you're like, oh, wait a second, let me substitute this out for that. And so that way I'm maintaining within like the Mediterranean diet guidelines. And so that was something that I wish someone would have told me when I first started on the Mediterranean diet, because it wasn't so obvious. I do have a really amazing, helpful ebook in my bio, and especially when you're first starting out, because it goes over a lot of this information that is helpful and that I wish I would have known when I first started out, because there's really not a ton of information or like a community about the Mediterranean diet. You can find it for like carnivore, you can find it for keto, but you can't really find it for Mediterranean diet. And so it has just a lot of these concepts, the principles. I've got a food pyramid in there. I've got like 40 recipes in there to start out that are really good and unique. And it's not just your basic, like, here's another chickpea, white bean salad. So it's like $9.99 in my bio. I encourage you, like if you're first starting out, just grab it. It's gonna help you out and kind of setting you up for success to maintain the Mediterranean diet. So if you have any other questions that you would like for me to expand on or touch on, maybe I could create another video. And so just drop, whatever it is in the comments, and we'll go from there. So I hope you found this helpful, and follow for more all things Mediterranean diet.